What's more, I'll give you one more topic. Look at the issue of rates. The issue of rates.
Gas electricity rates are going to be postponed.
We are the mechanism that Eduardo Rodriguez Chirillo designed to make these adjustments. They are in line with what the court's rulings were in terms of gradualism and all that. That is, they are made in accordance with the law.
It's going to be gradualism, President?
Well, let's say that it is a restriction that the court placed when there is Aranguren started the
rate increase.
Yes. So let's say we play within the rules of the games. That is, let's say I play games on the court. I think it's defined perfectly then. In that, but look, this is very interesting because I could be zero rates.
Zero increase.
No, I'm going to say this is a theoretical example. But to understand the logic of this, the damage that Kirchnerism caused by stepping on tariffs.
I could not charge it.
Exact zero. Now he gave them, but no, they are not free. Someone has to pay for it. Well, then I guess we pay for it with monetary issue. That is, we pay for it with ladies who pay for it with inflation. So what is happening? First, this tax is a highly regressive tax that hits hardest on the most vulnerable, therefore. On the net, what ends up losing the most are the most vulnerable. But not only that. You in the middle, in addition, distort the price system. Therefore, investments are not made. And also, the demand that you assign is a zero price. So let's say you demand much more, then you leave the entire system distorted. What does it mean? That the bill ends up costing you more.
Got it.
The tactic the Kirchnerism used a lot, was about 2 points of the GDP. Then on the other hand, they'd really dig deep into people's pockets.
What would you say to those who claim there are governors saying that if he didn't tweet so much or use so many adjectives, he'd probably reach an agreement or something? We agree a lot with the direction and many things the president's laying out. What's your message to the governors saying that? To those who are on the same page as some of the governors?
Let's see if it's just a matter of presentation. Seems like hypocrisy to me. Because what matters is substance. Not the way it's presented. If I'm about to hand you the bottle of the best wine in the world, why do you care about the label? What matters is what's inside the bottle, even the world's best wine. Look, point number one, valuing style over substance is kinda mediocre. And it's mostly a thing liars do to excuse themselves from doing what they ought to.
So you're saying people hide behind formality to avoid focusing on the real content?
Clearly, that's the first thing. And the second thing is, they're annoyed I use Twitter, can't stand me using it. And it's really about jealousy, as Alejandro Fantino nailed it, talking about the enlightened voter. Pure jealousy, man. It's like this guy wants what I have. And since he's a loser who's lost every election he's been in, he can't stand me having it. So basically, yeah, it gets to him the same way. Twitter has something wonderful in social networks. It has something wonderful. And that is that you have direct communication with people. I don't need any intermediary. To communicate with people, I give an example on Saturday morning. At night, I had been at my Rabbi Vaksevani's house and with his family spending Shabbat. Following me, I went to sleep. I get up at 6 something in the morning. I get up when the sun rises. So I got on the cart that I have there in the cantinita. No, the cart, yes.
Yes, the golf cart.
And I went to my little children's house and started playing with them. Yeah, my 4-legged children. And after that, I had to eat breakfast. So I started eating breakfast and started on Twitter. And one of the things, something funny that happened. Oh, I want to take the chance, even though we're a day late, to give a shout out to Dr. Carlos Salvador Bilardo, who turned 86 yesterday, right? The World Cup year, no less. And me, being a diehard Bilardista, imagine there was no way I wouldn't mention and big up Doctor's birthday. So it was pretty interesting because while I was having breakfast, I had folks messaging me. And like on Saturdays, I got nothing much. Usually the other ministers are busy working, So I get some free time and I start replying. I'm talking directly with the people, and that, my friend, politicians get super jealous because they can't connect with people like that. They want to stick with the old school analog way that fixes things by buying favors. Well, if you take a peek at the campaign, all those politicians were throwing fortunes into social media. Yet you got folks like the libertarians making a comeback on social media. Why is that? Because that's where we popped up, just us, no one else. How much did we drop on all that stuff? See, why? Because it's all natural, we're talking straight to the people.
Since we are talking about direct communication, wouldn't it be better to just get in touch? I say this because we talked to Luis Juez a few hours ago. He mentioned you gave him a ring, you two had a conversation and created a bond that wasn't there before, all because you hadn't chatted before. Is it such a faux pas in politics to call a governor, or to call you up, or do you... Okay, I know this might sound dumb, but I gotta ask it anyway.
Good point. And yeah, you're right. Quite a few people have mentioned it to me. Definitely something I should be more involved in. Like those kinds of talks today, for sure.
You mean like personal and political connections?
Hold up, let me tell you what I've got. It's pretty clear I've got professional qualifications just like everyone else.
So yeah, a workaholic.
Yes, we've heard that one before. And does that bring problems, huh? Let's just say my work addiction is high, but besides that, what I really want to say is this. I'm naturally deep into the economic scene, super involved. But really, I'm also in close touch with Luis Toto Caputo and Santiago Bausili, like a lot. Not only do I interact a lot with Caputo, I interact a lot with Mrs. Bullrich. I mean, I say as Ulrich, I say communication is exactly a constant fluidity. And I also interact a lot with Sandra Petovelo. I mean, but this is regardless of the fact that I am a friend of Dr. Petovelo. Why today is my focus raised in terms of inflation, in terms of insecurity, and in terms of social containment? So let's say Minister Mondino is a minister who has her own games. She knows how to do her job extremely well. And then after she washes herself, they put me in the place where I have to be, and I do my job. Yes, and I also fully trust, for example, in Minister Guillermo Francos, in the same way that I strongly trust Petri. Well, now we were much more involved with Luis on the issue of that we are going to get a law, let's say, that contemplates narcoterrorism so that this allows the action of the armed forces, but without having to reach a state of siege, or for example, the work of Dr. Mario Russo. I say where, for example, we had to interact a lot with this issue of dengue. In reality, it is also part of the apathy of Kirchnerism. Because today's dengue is the result of not having done things well, not having run a good campaign 1 year ago then. Me and it was a, so let's say, complicated topic.
But then you would recognize that point is something he would have to work on.
Yes, let's say, in fact, several have mentioned it to me. I mean, for example, President Macri told me that I had to. Even though I knew what I was saying, Alberto Fernandez also told me that I had to do more. I mean, well, it doesn't work for me. But it seems that when I'm in one-on-one interactions, it works much better than what I believed.
What happened to Victoria Villarreal? I'll tell you. They have differences. They are fighting.
We are not fighting. We are not fighting. And I believe that the video that made victory after off, God is clear about what the vote was. I mean, we just have an excellent relationship. We don't think exactly the same. That's clear. But let's say that is, our differences are imperceptible to the rest of the people, so to speak.
It's not a problem that you don't think alike.
No, it's nothing more. I mean, I still say that in terms of people, the differences we have are imperceptible. That is, we also have an excellent relationship. And not only that, notice that I didn't get involved in giving an opinion about whether it was appropriate or not. I say that is her job. I have no reason to give an opinion on her work, and she will have done the cost-benefit evaluation. Ready, let's say here. Who am I to get involved in her work for? Therefore, let's say, in fact, now on Tuesday, we meet again to have a cabinet meeting. That is, I don't see any type of problem. What I believe is that there was a malicious interpretation of the statement.
From the president's press office.
Exactly. There was a malicious interpretation, but I am used to seeing this type of In fact, I saw a note from a journalist from Grupo Clarín. Well, specifically Marcelo Bonelli. In other words, it is a note where the entire note lies. They are all lies. No, there is not a sentence that is true. Well, I say, well, okay, then I understand that Grupo Clarín is very angry with me because I say they must see one of their businesses in danger. Or because, let's say, they will be upset because I cut the pattern. Dude, no, it's not the only media outlet that is aggressive with me for cutting it off. Not saying there are some more aggressive, no, and more explicit, like C5N. So, but well, okay, I say those are the rules of the game.
What happened to the head of the military house?
Well, there are. Or some issues in the operation that my sister didn't think were correct. And then the decision was made to make a change. We have there, let's say my sister has all the considerations. Because of which he made that change, that is, there was a situation that generated, detonated, triggered the trigger, and from there on.
You can tell from the situation, or it is part of the secret.
It's part of the secrets.
Very good. How is the omnibus law going to be discussed again? There is a version that says that it will be separated into 6
points with the decrees, or the decrees which we can separate into 7 parts.
The 2 DNU.
Exactly. The DNU in 7 parts, and it.
They will do?
Well, if it does not pass through the Chamber of Deputies, we will resist. I mean, we are not going to give up. That is, we have well defined where we want to go, and we are going to continue trying.
If the base law is not approved before the May 25 pact,
there is no pact. It makes no sense. The May Pact. The May Pact is basically 10 pillars to the functioning of the economy now. The May Pact is related to what we do in Chapter 4. And Chapter 4 is linked to the basic law, that is.
I can explain President to people who he is.
Chapter 4 is the inspection of the economic section.
To profits.
Not only income tax, because there is also a discussion there. Because the northern provinces have a vision. The southern provinces have another vision.
The Patagonians do not want income tax, the northern provinces do, etc.
Well, that's why there are a lot of discrepancies. And yeah, we're all ears for any disagreements as long as we keep our hands off the zero deficit. We're up for any and all chats, but only if that zero deficit stays untouched, which is no small deal.
What's the government's role in fighting corruption that's hitting us hard in the wallet, huh? Didn't you tell me once what you thought it'd cost before you stepped in?
Our fight against corruption is relentless. You know, I always like to bring up the case of Minister Petovelo, who's got this anti-corruption unit, right? It puts them to work, sends them out to a different department of the ministry every week. And man, you should see how we're always digging up stuff, huh? We poke around and corruption just comes oozing out everywhere. Where are we taking on the fight against fierce corruption, right? And that's got the political elite super ticked off.
Trust funds, man, they're all about corruption.
It's like everything the government does, you know, starts off with a good goal and then just twists it all up. It's kinda in the government's very nature. I mean, when you don't bear the cost of your choices, it's bound to not work out well. So naturally, the government just doesn't do a good job. That's why the best thing one can do is shrink it down as much as possible, you know? So we should always be looking for a solution through like the private sector or what? Should they start working like the private sector?
The entity closed, but what's going to happen to the folks affected? So I get it. If someone's out of a job, they'll be reassigned.
Let's take a look at some roles that have to exist, you know, the jobs that are there. Yeah, issues like discrimination and stuff, those need to be taken care of. But not having, let's say, inadi, or anybody for that matter, especially not with the style of the inadi, which was all about hounding the opposition. It was a way to shut up those with different opinions back then. The functional issue, right? He continues, but obviously with way fewer people and without that dependency that was actually used to target folks, keeping in line with what makes sense for the Ministry of Justice, that is.
What's going to happen with Talem?
It's shut down. It's done for, not coming back. It was just a political propaganda tool.
And how are the people who work there, the institution, the organization?
It will be seen if anyone can be reassigned and if they will not have to go and find another job. The same thing that happens to anyone who loses their job.